Today we are talking about the element of fire. I am Dave the Amateur Magus. On this channel I talk all about the mechanics behind ceremonial magic, occultism, esotericism, and the mechanics behind everything you can find within a dusty old grimoire. If you enjoy what I do here on the channel and you want to support me, link in the Patreon where you can get exclusive access to all of my Patreon-specific content, including early access, and the Occultic Manual series, which is a monthly write-up that I do that is aimed to be more advanced than what I have here on the channel, less advanced than what you would find in a dusty old grimoire that we usually cover. If any of that interests you, link in the description where you can sign up to the Patreon, and if you're already watching this on Patreon, you have my thanks for your continued and ongoing support. Let's talk about the element of fire, shall we? The element of fire is the most mysterious, simple, and complex at the same time. Yeah, occultism is weird like that. So, the element of fire is simple. It's too simple. It is the simplest thing that we have access to. It is simultaneously, now if you look at what's going on in the chemical reaction of fire, chemical reaction wise, fire is very strange. Fire is very much not simple at all, but the element of fire is very much going to be the element that is most closely associated with energy, movement, and just free-flowing energy. Now, this is different from, say, water or air that are always free-flowing, but fire itself is the energy of movement itself. Fire, you cannot get a stationary fire. Even if a fire is small, it is still dancing wildly. Now, the reason why it's simple is because of this simple. It is a simple moving thing. It is pure movement. It is non-physical. You can put your hand through a fire, and it will burn you. And that is a big aspect of fire. Fire will burn you. Now, the reason why that's important is because the element of fire burning people is going to be a major motif that the element of fire is going to have. The element of fire, unlike the other three elements, is a consuming element. The element of earth is stable, the element of water changes, the element of air flows around, but the element of fire destroys. This is seen very frequently in forest fires, and the fact that if you just have a simple campfire, you need to keep putting stuff into that campfire in order to keep that fire going. Now, it was said in the antiquities, in ye olden grimoires, that if you had an excess of fire, you could tell that you didn't have an excess of fire, and no animal was said to have an excess quantity of fire, for the sole fact that if they did, they would burst into flames. Old grimoires are funny like that. They used to believe that these elements were literal. In modern day, we kind of have a more metaphorical view of this, but this is what they believed back in ye olden days. Now, when it comes down to the element of fire, there are three signs of the element of fire. There's Aries, the ram. Aries is the beginning. Aries is the start of the zodiac. For those who say that Leo is the start of the zodiac, if Libra, Capricorn, and Cancer are the beginning elements of air, earth, and water respectively, why is Aries not the first sign of the zodiac? That doesn't make any sense. Why would you start with a fixed sign as the beginning of a year? So yeah, Aries is the sign of beginnings, warfare, violence, and explosive and dramatic instability. Aries is very much the explode, ask questions later sign of the zodiac. It does not really think before doing. Usually it will do and then think and justify its actions later, or justify why its actions were a terrible idea. But Aries you will usually never see an apology from unless they really fucked something up. Unlike Leo, which never is wrong. Leo is the sign ruled by the sun. Aries is ruled by Mars, but Leo is ruled by the sun. And Leo, everyone loves Leo, just ask one, is a phrase I like to say tongue-in-cheek. Leo is the sign of attention, drama, fun, and romance. It is the sign of dynamic and engaging everything. It is the fun sign. And Leo is genuinely one of the most fun signs to be around. It is one of the most fun signs to work with, the most fun signs to engage, and really there's no going wrong with the sign of Leo. Very similarly, there is only one time it is wrong to go along with the mutable sign of fire, and that is if you are a compulsive liar. The sign of Sagittarius is the absolute wanderer of the zodiac. The sign of Sagittarius is the truth-seeking zealot of the zodiac, and when it comes down to it, they also are some of the best storytellers and some of the people who want to get you in the best mood. These are the kind of people who just randomly decide to go to Vegas because, fuck it, we're going to Vegas. Sagittarius is the risk-taking truth seeker that is the sign that is most associated with, well, it is associated with sight of all things for weird reasons that we're not really going to get into. And it is the sign that is all about travel and all about philosophy. It is exploring the higher-minded things whenever it can, which is kind of weird, but it takes it takes healthy debate in order to learn philosophy properly, and you need to be debating your ideas, but, which is where all the fire signs have this, little bit of a competitive edge. Aries and Sagittarius have that competitive. Aries is more mean-spirited than Sagittarius by far, but they all have that competitive edge, and Leo doesn't really have a competitive edge because it's already the best, and it doesn't need to compete. All of the signs have a connection with their other elemental signs. The competitive edge is the thing that connects Aries and Sagittarius. The good-spirited nature of Leo and Sagittarius is their own connection, and this is one of the reasons why you're going to notice that the signs in the elements are going to have a good connection with each other, and why they're going to have a good connection with most of the other signs that are their corresponding element, unless they're the diametrically opposed ones. So Aries is going to have a problem with Libra, and that's because to Aries, Libra doesn't make any decisions, and to Libra, Aries is rash and impulsive. Leo is going to be thinking about itself and trying to make itself look good, and Aquarius is going to be doing the exact opposite and looking at everyone else. Sagittarius is going to be looking for the truth and trying to have healthy philosophical debate, and it thinks that Gemini is a lying, two-faced, backstabbing son of a bitch. And Gemini thinks that, depending on the day, Sagittarius is a complete and total idiot or tells the truth too much. There is really a lot that can be going on with the mutable signs there. Now, when it comes to the element of fire, you're primarily going to be using this in your ritual practice in the form of candles. You're going to be using this in the form of candles because it's the most accessible and it is the easiest way to get the element of fire in your ritual practice. It's just true. You're going to be having elemental fire in your ritual practice. Now, the reason why you want actual candles instead of electric candles, though, you could make the argument that electric candles are actually fine. I don't, and here's why. The element of fire is said to be one of the two elements that is a gateway into the energetic realms and into the ethereal realms in the astral plane and that kind of thing. And so the reason why it is important to actually get that stuff all taken care of, and the reason why it's important to have those in your rituals, is because if we're trying to do magic to affect those planes, we want easier access to those planes. If we want to do magic to affect the astral plane and the higher realms, well, it certainly helps if we have a gateway that is right there and open to the astral realms. Now, in the case of water, water works two ways. Water is, generally speaking, more here than there. So water, you can scry water and you can see in the reflections. This is what water scrying is. But for the element of fire, fire is more there than here. In fact, if you burn something, it is said that it goes up into those higher realms. And this is why when you read Agrippa, you have Agrippa that when he's talking about the element of fire and earth in that chapter in the very early parts of book 1, he talks about the element of earth for a paragraph, and then he talks about the element of fire for 2 paragraphs, and then starts talking about Jesus Christ. So let's talk about Jesus. Not actually, but we gotta address it. The element of fire is said to be connected with the most divine of all of the spirits and all of the deities and all of the gods, with very few exceptions. There are chthonic deities that are associated with fire. Vulcan comes to mind very quickly, but when it comes down to the gods of the pantheon, they're usually going to have some connection with fire being sacred, and fire is going to have a very important role in all of the ritual magic that you end up doing, because it is that connection to the divine. Now, when it comes to the element of fire burns things. It is a consuming element, as I have discussed before. Now, as many in pop astrology would like to tell you, that there are different elements in different signs. So some people will have more of the element of fire in their psychology and their makeup than other people. And this is the number one cause of burnout in a majority of people. You know those people who just do something and then they get super excited about it and then they do it for a while and then they do it a little bit more and then they, like, as they do it, their enthusiasm starts to diminish and then eventually they're like, fuck it, I'm done. That is the burnout of the element of fire. That is what the element of fire does in all situations. Or it will be a case of gambling. Sagittarius corresponds to gambling, and the reckless nature of the element of fire will cause you to burn up a lot of things and get you burned. This is why we always, usually in the modern day, whenever we are dealing with things that have been in places associated with fire, like the stove, or the oven, or on top of a burner, or in a fire, we use protective gear so we don't burn ourselves, because we don't want to get burned. Now, the element of fire also has one insanely important connection that I don't think I see a lot of people mentioning, and that is that fire is the most projective of the elements. Now, fire does not exist in its own right. Fire exists in relationship to what it is burning, and it is always coming out of that thing. So if you think of a campfire, you have the embers in the inside of the campfire, and then you have the flames above it. It is being projected out of what it is burning. Now, the element of fire also needs to take in things, similarly to the element of water. The element of water is always taking in things. The element of fire is always taking in things that it's going to burn. But it's generally speaking going to be projecting and shooting outward, and this is how fire spreads. So usually, even in, when it's starting, a fire will start. It will start to come out of the thing that it is burning, and then it will try to spread to the other things until there is no more fuel. This is how the element of fire works in both literal and metaphysical terms. You are looking at a fire, you start a fire in the center of something, it will spread outward, and it will, project the heat and the fire and the energy outwards, and then it will burn up everything, and then it will die down. And that is why the element of fire is so volatile, because if it is out of control, this is how forest fires start in a physical sense, and in a metaphorical sense, it is how burnout starts. If you do not control the element of fire, you will have a lot of problems. So how do we control the element of fire? Well, we set strict regulations for ourselves that we do not, under any circumstances, break. We have strict fire safety controls. We have those stone barriers, we have the other elements keeping us in check, because if we don't, we're gonna burn ourselves, and burning out can be, it can be a pretty unpleasurable experience, all things considered. It is either have barriers or never let yourself get burned at all, and that is not always possible. In the modern day, we have to do things with the element of fire, like, force ourselves to do things and force ourselves not to do things that are really, really important, but are very difficult. And that's why we use the other elements, specifically the element of water usually, and the element of earth. Those two elements usually will keep you from going through and misusing the element of fire against yourself. You will be using the element of fire for your benefit, not for your downfall. So yeah, I have been Dave, the Amateur Magus. Hope everyone enjoyed today's video. Hope everyone is having a good day. If you're not having a good day, hope your day gets better. Take it easy, take care. See you next week.